This is a tune called La Discrete by a French melodeon player and composer called Stephane Delicq. I've only recently found out about French melodeon players, and I'm really enjoying looking into their playing. It's basically, I think, because there's some limited chord options, and it's the choice of the chords that really make the pieces nice. It's a two-part tune. I'll start with the right hand. It's basically an A minor. It starts on a C. Lots of moving by step, so it should be relatively easy to learn the tune. So the first two bars repeat, but again what makes it interesting is that the first bar is over A minor, and then E minor, but on the repeat the chords change. So we have F major and C major. So even though the melody repeats, the music's got a different flavour because of the chord choices. So once again, those first four bars, everything moves by step, and it's all white notes. Still moving by step. Then leap down to E, and then to A, but then we move by step again. Then C, B, G sharp. And then we repeat the first two bars. And we repeat them again, but we carry on up this time. And then we walk down again from the F. And then we leap down to the E, and to the A, just like we did before. And here's some little jerky stuff. Basically the thumb goes E, E flat, D. But we have C, C, B above it. So once more, the whole of the tune. That's the leap to E, back to A. C, B, G sharp, and there is this extra E. And then we go up to G. Leap down to E, up to A, then down to E again. It feels as if the C should move down to a B, but again, I don't think that's an accident. I think it's one of the nice quirks. That's the first section. Second section, again, lots of repetition and moving by step. So it's 3 D, C, B, A. D, C, B, A, D, C, B, C, B, A. So the last repeat is extended. And then you repeat that little phrase again. Then a quick walk up A, B, C, G sharp A. So the tune is really quite straightforward. One thing I would say is that because it's written for a diato or melodeon, and because they're occasionally changing between push and pulls, to get the right notes out, I think that adds some of the character as well. So sometimes they use fast bellows in order to get through some air to make the change, sometimes they just have very separate fingers. So instead of playing, I think to make it sound more authentic, you might play it a little more separate. Especially this phrase. That little tenuto, little push on it, I think it makes it sound more pleading than. So the separation, because the reed needs to start again with a fresh bellows push. In other words, if I join the notes up here with my fingers, that although each reed starts straight away, it doesn't sort of kick-start with the bellows as it does if you do it separately. So I think separation on the accordion is probably more characterful than it might be on other instruments. So separation. That's the right hand. I'll just zoom in a bit for the left hand. Okay, so the left hand is in one sense straightforward because it's pas mainly and A minor, so you find your E button probably and then walk down to the A, and that's the bass note A, and 2 buttons back on the same diagonal is the minor. That's straightforward. And then 1 bar of A minor, 1 bar of E minor. Very straightforward. So 1 bar of A minor, 1 bar of E minor. Now the trick with this piece, and I suspect with a lot of melodeon pieces, is how you're going to manage to get from E all the way down to F. Because we only want F major and C major. Well, the E's marked, but the F isn't marked, so, and it's a long way away. So you could just get used to the amount of wrist twist you've got, or you could make sure you brush past the C, which is raised or marked in some way on your accordion, and get used to that. One of the critical things I find is, again, because I'm a relatively beginner with this myself, one of the critical things is how far up you are. So if you're playing, your wrist is nice and high, it's play the A's and the E's, then a little bit of wrist twist isn't enough to get you past the C. So perhaps you ought to experiment in not having your wrist too high, even though we're playing these A's and E's a lot of the time. So if you're reaching for those a little bit, then the twist you need to get down to the F isn't so violent. So again, that's my limited experience, that's what I'm finding. So A minor for 1 bar, E minor for 1 bar, find the F major, and then C major, then up 2 from the C to D minor, to A minor. Now you need to find the F again, and the leap's not quite as far this time because you've been coming from A, and to E major. Now, although the leap from F to E is obviously as big as the leap from E to F, I find it easier to get to the E because it is marked, and that's more or less where I started from anyway, so that's my natural hand shape. So it's the F that feels like the alien, but it's the F that gives this piece the character because it's the flattened sixth. It's a major chord on the flattened sixth of the minor scale, and that's for me where the character comes in, because it acts as a strong lead to the dominant. So from A minor, where it used to go into E, to A minor, that's harmonically what you're used to. But if we're going from A minor to F major, to E major, to A minor, that's a stronger harmonic flirtation really. So that's where the character is. So where did I get to? I think we've done the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars. And the next 8 bars are very, very similar. A minor, E minor, where's the F? To C. Up 2 to D minor, to A minor. Now this is the unusual bit where the right hand goes, just in case you can't see it. So when the right hand does that, this is the bit we're at now. So you need to find the C, F, and then slide forward to the E on the counterbass row. And using that same finger, come up to the A minor. You could go up to the other E that we've been using. So you could go C, F, E, but as you can see, it's quite fiddly. So as we have these counterbasses, which give us the alternate ways of getting some different notes, you can go C, F, E, and the only reason I use this finger to get to the A then is because I need the umpa. You won't find that as hard as it looks, because there's no chord behind the bass note, it's just C, F, E, A. The other thing that's worth bearing in mind is that you can change the F chord for B, the F button for B. You could actually play C, B, E, A, and again you can come up to the A. Because that's, there's a duality about the harmony here. It could be C, F7, E, A minor. You could think like that, but it also sort of works over a B chord. So it's C, B, E, A minor. So if you find it easier going from C, B to E to A, then you can do that, or C, F, E. So, second section, I like hanging on to the first of the pars. There are two reasons for that. One is harmonically, because the melody, the B, clashes with both of those chords, which is really nice. So, if we play a D minor chord, no clash there, but there is there, A minor, and there's the clash. The other reason I like it is that if you give a little push, it adds some rhythm. A little push on the second beat of the bar, which is nice. And the third reason is practical, that if I play a D minor chord short, A minor chord short, if I play the third note short, that gives me even longer to get down to the F, which I need next. So it makes sense musically for the harmony to clash with the melody. It makes sense practically so that you've got longer to go to the F. So the three chords once again are, find your D, is your E, A, D, D minor, A minor, down to the F, and one touch of the E, and then A minor, and that bass repeats itself. So it's D minor, A minor, move down to the F, up one touch to the E, A minor. So I realise that I'm doing a lot of talking about harmony, and it's because I want to share the reasons I find these pieces so nice but simple, but with a little bit of spice. They're really fascinating at the moment. Simple on the surface, but with some real crunch to them. Harmonically, practically, left hand is quite straightforward, apart from the leaps. There's only, I think, 5 chords, and they keep repeating round and round. So it's the leap from E minor to F that you need to work on. I like the idea of trying to emulate the melodeon style of playing, which is the separation and maybe some of the cricket bellows movements. I hope that makes some accordion players explore the melodeon or diato, D-I-A-T-O, which is the short for diatonic, which is the way the French talk about the melodeon. Stephane Delicq.